Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in today's video I'll be continuing with my animal magnet series, and today I have this sweet little bunny rabbit. So he does have magnets on his hands and feet, but you can definitely make it without the magnets if you don't have them available to you. So for this little guy I had the light gray and white and then these bright pink accents. And let me show you the magnets that I am using. They are super magnets made by the Magnet Source, and they are ring magnets, so they have this hole in the middle, and they're a little bit smaller than the size of a dime. And just to let you know, it does say extremely strong magnets not for children on the package, because they don't want kids to get their fingers pinched when the magnets go together. The size is 0.375 inches for the outer diameter, and you can find these online or possibly at your local home improvement or hobby store. You can make this bunny on either the full-size rainbow loom or the monster tail loom. So today I'm going to be showing it on the monster tail, but if you want to make it on the rainbow loom, you just want to remove this center row of pins, and then you want the outer rows to be in line with one another. And you can see I've moved the blue base plates apart from one another, so I have this open area for my figure to just grow down through the middle here. So I also have my 4 ring magnets, one for each of the paws, and then I have a twisty tie. This is just the metal part. I've cut off the outer plastic, and that's just going to help me pull these rubber bands through the magnets. And for my bands today, I have 135 of the caramel color. These are Rainbow Loom brand rubber bands. This is like a brownish orangish color. I have 69 white bands, 9 pink, and 2 black. First, let me show you how to make the tail. So I want to take one single white rubber band and go from the bottom left to the top right. It's going to be a long diagonal stretch, and I do want to twist that. And then I'm going to cross this, so from the top left down to the bottom right, placing another white band, and it's going to twist also. And then finally straight across the middle, placing a white that's going to twist. And now I'm going to put a second layer on in that same pattern, so from the bottom left to the top right, and then I'm crossing that, making a long X there, and then finally straight across the center. And so now I want to remove the bottom rubber band from each of the 6 pins. Doing the same thing here on the other side. Push that down. And now I'm taking the bottom band here on the right and moving it up. And the top band will come down. Going to do that same thing on the left side. So the bottom one will move up, and then the top will move down. And now I want the bottom 2 bands to come over the top. So I'll just do it here on the left, and then I'll repeat that on the right. And now I want to take this off of the loom. So I'll start on the right. It's just one single band. And then I'll go over to the left and pick that up as well. And then this is going to be the little bunny tail. You can play around with the bands a little bit if you need to. So what I'm going to do is just set this aside, but I want to get it off of my hook. So what I'm going to do is just slide it onto a pencil. So you can use a pen or pencil, or if you have another hook, you can leave it on there. I'm just going to do that for now and set this aside. Next, I'll make the foot and leg for the bunny. So whether you're using magnets or not, it's going to be the same thing. You want to take 2 white rubber bands, and you're going to place them on your hook. You want to twist and put them back on, twist and put them back on. And now you're going to take 3 more white bands, and you want to put them on the end of your hook here. And then you're just going to take these bands and slide them all up on here. Make sure all the loops get on, and slide it to right about in the center. And then you're going to take the other 3 loops and get them back on your hook. We're going to do that again. So you're going to take 3 more white bands, get them on the hook, and then you want this whole piece to slide on. So I think the easiest way is to grab this and pull outward to make the loop a little bit bigger, and then you can slide this whole section on, and then you want to put these other 3 loops back on your hook. So that is going to be the toe section. And now we're going to place these on the center pin straight across. So 3 of the loops go on to the left side, and then the other 3 loops stretch across to the right. And I want this toad to be pointing straight towards me. Now if you are not using magnets, what you're going to do is take a white band and go from the center pin on the left up to the right, and I am going to twist that, and then you're just going to cross this, so from the top left to the middle right, and again you do want to twist that bottom layer, and then you're going to add a second layer, same thing, starting in the middle left, diagonally up, and then crossing it. So you'll have 2 X's on there. And now let me show you what to do if you are using magnets. So let me just take these off of there. What you're going to do is separate one of your magnets, and then you want to take your twisty tie and put it in through the center hole. And then you're going to take 4 white bands, place them on your twisty tie. You want to make sure they stay in front of the magnet. And then I'm just going to close this, and then I'll slide all of this through, and then I can carefully slide the rubber bands through the magnet till it's about in the middle, and then I'll take this off. So then what you're going to have to do is find each side of the rubber band. So what I'm going to do is take one of the bands on the right and just gently tug on that to see which one moves, so I know where the other side of it is. And then I'm going to take my hook and I want to pick up each of the sides. I pulled this one a little bit far, but it's okay. I'm going to grab hold of it. I want them to be pretty much even. And I'm going to place that down here on top of this center pin on the right hand side. I want to get both loops. And now I'm going to have to find the other sets of bands. So I'll just take this top one here and pull. And I see that it's this other top band that's moving. So I'm going to get that on my hook, and I'm going to move these straight across to the left. Get them both on there. And now I need to do the next one. So I'm going to grab the next rubber band, gently pull, and I see it's this loop here. So I'm going to pick them both up, and that's going to go on the pin on the top left. And then I have one more set here. Let me grab this from underneath, and these are going on the top right. So that part can be a little bit tricky to do, to figure that out. And if they're a little bit twisted or hung up, that's okay. What you can do is just use your hook to sort of separate them from one another. And now whether you're using magnets or not, it's going to be the same from this point on. So what you're going to do is take the bottom 3 rubber bands on these middle pins, and I'm just going to pick up all 3 at once and pull them over the top into the center. And then the same thing on the left here. I'm taking the bottom 3 and moving them over the top. Push this down. And now I'm going to do 6 layers of the caramel colored bands. It's always going to be the same pattern. It's going to be X's. So I'm starting on the middle here on the left and going diagonally up and to the right. And there's no need to twist. And then I'm just going to cross this, making the X. So that was my first layer. And now I want to remove the bottom layer. So you should have 3 bands on all 4 of the pins. So I'm just taking one single band and pulling it over the top. Doing that same thing for the other side. And push down. Now I'm going to add my second layer of X's here. And then the bottom single band comes off, so it's still going to be white this time. And now this will be my third. And I'm pushing it down every time so I have room to add the next layer. So this is the fourth. And then here's the fifth. And then I have one more to do here. This will be my last layer for this leg. And I'm removing that bottom rubber band. And push that down. Now I want to remove this leg from the loom. So I'm going to take the bottom 2 rubber bands on the right, just put them to the pin above. And then the same thing on the left, the bottom 2 move up. And now I want the bottom 2 rubber bands to come over the top on each of the sides. And now what I'm going to suggest is if you have 2 hooks, you would take your second hook and remove this from the loom and use this as your holding hook. So that's what I'm going to do. If you do not have 2 hooks, you can always just take this off and then put it on a pen or a pencil as a holding spot. So I'm going to take the 2 bands on the right, keep them on, and get the 2 on the left. And then I can take it off of here. Make sure they all stay on there. And for the foot, you might have to adjust the toe part. You want it to be nice and straight, and you want to squeeze at the ankle a little bit. So that's going to be one of your legs. And now you're going to repeat that pattern again. So you can pause the video here and make your second one. And if you need to, you can go back and follow along again with the tutorial. I've now finished my 2 little bunny feet. So I'm going to just set them aside for now. And I'm going to make the arms. So it's going to be a very similar concept to the feet, except for it's not going to have the toe part. So if you are not using magnets, you're going to take 1 white band and you're going to go from the middle pin on the left diagonally up and to the right and twist. This is going to be a series of X's, and from the top left down to the middle right and twist. It's going to be your first layer. And then for the second one, same thing, it's going to be white and it's just going to go on top starting at the bottom left and then crossing. So that's without magnets, and let me just show you what to do with magnets. Again, it's going to be the same concept as with the feet. You're going to take 1 single magnet and you're going to put the twisty tie through the middle, and then you want to take your 4 white bands and put them on. Keep them in front of this magnet and then close this up. Make the hook, and you can slide these all through. Take this off. So now I'm going to have to find the ends here. So I'll just pick up a band on the left and gently pull. See which one moves here. Get both of these ends, and this is going to go on the pin on the right hand side in the center. It's them both on there. And now I'm just going to have to find the rest of the bands. So you just want to make sure that this is staying on the pin. So I'm actually going to just use my finger and hold that. And then from underneath here, I'll pick up a band and then carefully pull. Get the other end of it. And this is going over to the left. So I have 2 more to find here. So from the bottom, I'm just picking up 1. Pulled that one a little bit too hard. Can grab it here. And I'll move these up and to the right. So I think I have 3 connected here. And then finally, I'll grab this last one here from the bottom, and then the top, and this is coming to the top left. So now I just want to try and get these separated. Going to push this down. And now again from this point on, whether you have magnets or not, you're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to add 6 layers of the caramel color. So from the bottom left, going diagonally up and then crossing. And there's no need to twist these. And then you're just going to take this bottom rubber band. There should be 3 on each of the pins. So 1 single band comes over the top. And then we'll do a second layer. And then we're removing the bottom, so it's still going to be white here. Push down, and I'm going to do a third layer. So this part's not too difficult. Just doing your X's here. We want a 4th layer. And 2 more layers, so this is the 5th. And then finally 1 more. And we're taking off the bottom layer. And so now once again I want to remove this from the loom. So I'm taking the bottom 2 here and moving them up. Same thing on the left. Now the bottom 2 come over the top on each of the sides, pushing down. And I'm going to get my holding hook. So I'm going to just slide these feet up farther on my hook. And now I have more room that I can pick up the arm. So I'm picking up the 2 bands on the right and then the left. And then once again I'm going to repeat this same pattern. So again, you want to pause here and make your second arm, and you can go back and follow along again if you need to. I've now finished my other arm. So I have the bunny's arms and legs here on the holding hook, and once again I'm just going to set this to the side. And the next thing I'm going to do is make the rabbit's ears. So I want to take one of the caramel colored bands and I'm going to quadruple this on my hook. So I'm just going to put it on, twist, put it back on, twist, put it back on, and then one more time till I have the 4 loops on here. And then I'm going to take 2 more bands, and I want to slide these 4 loops onto these other 2 bands. So I'm just going to put them on the end of my hook. I'm just going to slide this on, get it to go right in the center, and now I'm going to stretch this across the center row of pins. So 2 loops will go on the left, and then the other 2 are going to stretch across to the right. And I'm getting those bands right about in the middle. And now what I'm going to do is stretch these out because I want them to go over all 4 pins. So I'm taking the bottom 2 bands on the right, and I'm just going to pull those down. And then on the left, same thing, the bottom 2 are going to stretch down. And so it's going to look like a bow tie shape. And now I'm going to take 2 more caramel bands, and they're going straight across the bottom set of pins, just 2 at once. And then 2 more are going across the next set in the middle here. And now I want the bottom set of bands to come over the top. So I'm just going to grab the 2 and I'll release them from each of the pins. Same thing on the left. So now they're just sitting in the middle here. Now I'm going to do another set on top of each of those. So 2 more bands are going straight across the bottom. And then 2 more across the center. I'm going to get the bottom 2 bands on all 4 pins to come over the top. Push this down. And now I want to stretch this out from 2 pins to 3 pins. So I'm going to take the top 2 bands here, just the top section, I'm going to pull them so they're stretching over this pin above, doing that for the other side as well. So it's going to make that bow tie shape. But then I also want the top section of the bands that are on the bottom 2 pins. So I'm just grabbing the top part, and they're going to stretch over the center pins. So it's like 2 bow ties, one on top of the other. And now I'm going to take another set of the caramel bands, and they're going to stretch across the bottom. And now this time I'm going to take a set of the pink bands and put them in the center because I want this to be like the little pink part in the middle of the ear. And then across the top it's going to be back to the caramel. And now I need to get the bottom bands to come over the top. And I'm going to have to do this bottom section first because you can see it's on top here of these. So I'm just going to grab these 2 bands and I'm going to pull it over the top. And the same thing for the other side here. And now I'm able to do this upper section here. So I'll stay on the left here, taking the bottom 2 and coming over. And then same thing on the right. And push down. Now I'm going to do another set of those same colors. So it's going to be 2 caramel at the bottom. And then it's going to be 2 pink in the center. And then 2 caramel at the top. And then once again, I want the bottom layer to come off. So it's going to be 2 rubber bands from all 6 pins this time. And pushing that down. And now what I'm going to do is take the 2 bands on the bottom right pin and just move them to the pin above. And then I'm taking the bottom 2 pink and pulling them over the top. Same thing on the left side here. The bottom bands move to the center, and then the two bottom pink bands are coming over the top. I'm going to push that down, and now I want these upper bands to move into the center as well. So the top two on the right are coming down, and then those bottom two are coming over the top, and the same thing on the left, coming to the center, and then the bottom two come off. And now I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to take the bands on the right, leave them on, and pick up the bands on the left, and this whole thing can come off. So then that's going to be one of my bunny ears. And so I'm just going to slide this up on my hook and leave it on there as I make the second one. And I'm not going to film this, so you can pause your video here and make your second ear. And if you feel like you need to follow along with the tutorial, I will add the time for you to go back to. I've now completed my two bunny ears, and you can see that the pink goes in towards the center. So when I place them on the loom, I want to make sure that those are pointing towards the middle. So for this one, it's going in towards the center, but for this one, I'm going to have to flip it. So I'm going to start on the top here, and I'm going to place it straight across the top pins. So two bands are going to the left side, and then the other two are stretching across to the right. And you can see how this pink is pointing inward. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. This is going to stretch across the bottom, but I'm actually going to have to flip this around. So let me just take it off and turn it. And then I want the two bands to go on the left and the other two to go on the right. So now you can see the pink sides are both pointing towards the middle. Now this next layer is going to be caramel bands, and they are going to go from the bottom left to the top right. It's a long diagonal stretch. You want two bands, and I am going to twist this just because it's the very top of the head. And then I'm going to take two more, and it's going to go from the top left to the bottom right. And then once again, I do want to twist this. And then finally, I have two more that are going to go straight across the middle and twist. Now I'm going to add another layer before I do any looping. And again, this is caramel color bands, and it's starting on the bottom right. And I'm just going to do one single band at a time and outline these 6 pins. So I'm just starting here, and I'll just work my way around. And then one more going back to the start. And so now there's going to be 6 rubber bands on the corner pins, so you want the bottom 4 to come off. So I'm just taking 2 at a time, putting them over the top, and then the next 2. In the center here, you're only having 4 bands on, so you only need the bottom 2 to come off. And then at the top, again, you need the bottom 4. Same thing over here on the left, you're going to have 4, and then 2, and then 4. Pushing all of this down here. And for this next layer, I'm going to take 2 rubber bands, and again, they're the caramel color, and I'm going to stretch them on the left-hand side across all of those 3 pins, and now I want to continue that all the way around. So I'm just going to stretch it out. It's definitely going to be tight. They're going around all 6 of the pins. I'm going to push this down, and now the bottom 2 bands will come off. So the corners aren't too hard, but in the center here it's a little bit tougher. When you're pulling these up, this does want to come over the top as you're pulling it. So I would suggest having this pushed all the way down to the bottom. And And then on the left here again, the bottom two, and the center is going to be a little bit tougher. And push down. Now on this next layer is where we're going to add the eyes. So for this, you want to just take one of your black bands and quadruple it on your hook. So you're just going to twist and put it back on until you have 4 loops on there. And then you're going to take whatever your main color is. So I have the caramel, and I'm just going to slide these 4 loops onto here. Get it right in the center. And that's going to be one of my eyes, so I'm going to put that to the side, and I'll make the second one. So again, I'm quadrupling, and then that's going to slide onto one single band. And now the eyes are going to go on the right hand side. This is going to be the front of the face. So I'm just going to start on the bottom right here, get the loop on, and then stretch it up to the next pin. And now the other band here with the eye is going to be next. And then I just want to continue around, outlining this rectangle shape with single rubber bands. And then I'm going to remove the bottom two. So you'll feel as you go to take off this bottom layer here, it's very tight because it's the bands that stretched all the way around all 6 pins. So just take your time and make sure as you're pulling them over the top that these upper bands aren't coming off of your pins. Pushing that down. And now I'm doing another layer of this caramel color. So it's just going to outline the pins once again with single rubber bands. And now the bottom two need to come off. Going to push this all down, and now I'm going to switch to a layer of white. Again, it's the same pattern. And now the bottom layer comes off, so it's the 2 caramel colored bands, or whatever color you've chosen for your main body. Push that down. And now we need to make the nose section. So what I'm going to do for that is take one single pink band, and I want to quadruple it on my hook. So I'm just twisting and putting it back on till I get my 4 loops. And then I'm going to take 3 white bands, take them all 3 at once, get them on my hook, and I am going to slide these 4 loops onto the 3 white. And now I want to separate the 3 white bands. So I want to find either side of the same band. So I'm just going to get these 2 together. They're going to be on the left, and then I'll get the other 2 here together. They're going to be on the right, and then the last 2 are the center. So I need to place these on the front side here, and I'm going to take one set of bands and they're going to go on the bottom. Let me turn the loom a little bit here. So these 2 loops need to go the bottom section, and the other 2 that are in my right hand are going to stretch all the way to the top. Get those 2 loops on, And then finally, I just have this middle section here with the nose. I'm going to pull it out so I can get the bottom part of the white band to come up. And I'm going to slide that on the pin. And then I'm going to take the other side and put that on. So I know this can be a little bit tricky to do, so just take your time. So now I have all three of these bands that are looped around these 3 pins, and I have the little pink nose part sticking out. And then I'm just going to continue around this rectangle with single white bands. So from the top here, I'm just going to go over to the left and then just continue working my way around. And then I'm coming back to the start. And now I want to remove the bottom layer. So I have the bottom 2 bands here on the right. And if you'll notice, you're actually going to have 5 bands on this pin. I just took 2 over, but there's still 3 left on, and that's okay. And now I'm skipping this middle one for the moment. The top here, I'm just taking the bottom 2. And then the same thing on the other side here, it's just 2 from each. Push that down. And now for this one we skipped here, what I'm going to do is take my hook. I want to push back with the back of my hook, go down in the middle here, push back on this nose section, this whole piece, and you'll see these 2 white bands that are at the bottom here. Just going to pick them up, slide them off of the pin, leave them on my hook, and I'm going to slide this entire nose section off. And now I'll just put these 2 white bands right back on. So that's just going to connect that nose piece in the middle there. And now I'm going to take 2 more white bands, and they are going to stretch all the way around all 6 pins. So I'm just going to stretch them across the left there, and then I'll move them the rest of the way across with my hook. And now on these bottom pins, bottom and top on the right hand side, I do have those 3 rubber bands to come over the top. So I'm just going to grab all 3 at once and pull them over. In the middle here it's just 2. And then at the top I have the 3. And then on the left side it's just 2 for each. Pushing that all down. And now I'm going to do a layer that's going to be the neck. So I'm taking 2 white bands, and they're stretching from the bottom left to the top right, and I don't have to twist. And now from the top left to the bottom right, I'm placing 2 more. And then finally straight across the center, I have 2 more white. And then I'm going to loop the bottom layer, so it's going to be 2 bands from each, and it is going to be tight. And then I'm going to push that down. So we've just completed the head. And now I'm going to add 1 more layer before I put the arms on. And I'm going to do a mix of the white and the caramel. So I want the white to be along the front here, or the belly. So I'm starting at the bottom right here with single bands. And I'm just going to do 2 white. And now the rest I'm going to switch colors here. Just finish it out. And then the bottom layer comes off. So it's going to be the bottom 2 white. These aren't going to be as tight to get off here. Just make sure your upper bands are staying on. And now I'm going to add the arms. So I'm going to take my holding hook here, and one of the arms is going to go across the bottom. So 2 of the loops are going on the left hand side to make sure I get both of them to go on. and then the other two are going on the right. Pushing that down. Now this other arm is going across the top, so I need the 2 loops on the left and then the 2 on the right. I'm going to put the feet to the side, and now I have another layer to put on before I do any looping. It's going to be that same thing where the white goes on the right for the belly, and then the caramel for the rest. So these pins definitely get very full, especially if you're working with the monster tail. Now on the corner pins I have 6 bands, so I need the bottom 4 to come off. I'm just going to do 2 at a time. And in the middle I just have the bottom 2 and then 4 for the top. And that same pattern on the left. So it's going to be 4 and 2 and then 4. Pushing down. And now I'm going to do 2 more layers with that same pattern. So I'm doing the white on the right and then the caramel. And the bottom layer comes off. This time it's just going to be 2 from each. And I'm going to do that again. Again, it's 2 from the bottom. So you can see him poking through here. He's going to need to get his eyes pushed forward, but you can see his little face. Now at this point I want to add the tail, and I want it to go on the middle pin on the left hand side. Let me just set this down. So I have it on my pencil, and what I'm going to do is actually get it to go on my hook. I think it'll be a little bit easier to work with on my hook. So slide it off of the pencil. And now I'm just going to get these 2 loops to go on this pin here on the left hand side. And then what I'm going to do is the same concept I did with the nose. I'm going to reach down through the center, push back, grab these bottom 2 bands, pull them up through, and then I can slide this tail section off. And then these 2 loops go right back on. To make sure they both get around there. And this tail is going to be a little bit in the way, so what I'm going to do is just push this down below so it's out of my working area. Now I'm going to add another layer, and it's going to be the same pattern again. So it's going to be 2 white on the right and then follow around with the rest of this caramel color. And then back to the start here. And then I need the bottom 2 rubber bands to come off. So after I do this looping, we're going to add the little feet, and then we're basically done. Now as far as the feet go, we want the toes to be pointing towards the outside of the bunny. So I will take my first one here and separate it. And these toes here, I'm going to put at the top to have them facing upward. I'm going to take the two bands that are on the end of the hook here, and I'm going to put them on the top to make sure they both get on there on the left. And then I'm going to stretch this across, put the other two on the top right. It's a little bit twisted here. And now on the bottom here, I want the toes to be facing towards me. So it's backwards on my hook, so I'm just going to take it off here, turn it around, and I want the two bands to go on the left-hand side. And then the other two on the right. So that's what it's going to look like with his feet facing up towards you and the toes pointed on the outside. And then I'll take two more of the caramel color bands, and they're going to go around all 6 pins. So I'll start over here on the left. You do have to sort of work around these feet a little bit. If you wanted to, you can sort of push them down in between the pins to be out of your way. And now I need these to be stretched around all 6, so I have to stretch them over to the right. I'm going to push this down. And now I want the bottom layer to come off, so it's going to be 4 bands on the corners. So I'm taking 2 at a time. And then in the middle there's 2, and then on the corners there's 4 again at the top here. I know this foot's a little bit in the way, you have to fight around it, especially if you're using the monster tail because it's more compact. And then on the opposite side, same thing, it's 4, and then 2, and then again 4. So now I want to take this off of the loom, but first I have to close this up, so I want the bands on the bottom and top to move inward. So on the bottom right here, this is going to be very tight, so just be very careful and take your time. I'm going to pick up these 2 bands, and you might want to use your finger to push the rest of the bands down and the body so you can see what you're doing. And these 2 bands move to the pin above, and then the 2 at the top, they're coming off and moving down. And I'll do the same thing for the left-hand side. I'll take the top 2, and they're going to come down. Here, if I hold this, it's a little bit easier if I hold the body out of the way. And then the bottom 2 will come up. And then finally we want the bottom 4 to come over the top. You will definitely feel how tight the bands are, so just be careful. Push that down. And then I have one more single band that's going to go straight across the middle. And then the bottom 2 are coming over the top. Again, these are still going to be tight. Doing that for each side. And now I want the band on the right to move over to the left. The bottom will come over the top of just this one single band left that I'm going to get on my hook, and now I can pull the bunny out. And I want to pull this nice and tight to make a really tight slip knot so that doesn't come apart. And now I have this loop that I am going to have to hide, so the easiest way is just to put your hook through some of the bands and then pull it through. If you want, you can push it inside of the body and hide it that way, or you can just wrap it around a couple of different times until you don't notice it anymore. And so here is the bunny. You can see his face needs a little bit of help, so I'll just start at the top here and work on its ears. I like them to angle sort of towards the front, so you can do that with the bands. Stretch them up and then just sort of angle them forward. His eyes are kind of hidden, so we'll have to pull them out. And then here is his little nose section. That's going to have to get pulled forward, definitely. And then as far as his neck goes, we can pull up a little bit to make this neck get a little bit tighter. And then here with his arms and his body, fix those a little bit. Same thing with the legs here, if you want to put them out. And if the toes or anything need to be angled, you can do that. And then with his tail on the back, it might need a little bit of adjusting. It's kind of a puffy little tail with bands going all around. So basically that's it for the bunny. I think he turns out really sweet. And I'll show you the gray one from the beginning here. So I think they have their own little personality, even when you follow the same instructions. And obviously the different color choices make it look different too. I hope that everyone had a great time making their little bunnies. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!